Hi, good morning. So I was looking for a Christmas movie because 'tis the season, and the trailer for Christmas with the Cranks looked so ridiculous that I couldn't resist. So I have to talk about this goofy, grumpy movie. This is not necessarily a good movie, but I did have a good time watching it because sometimes bad movies can be fun to watch. You just have to give into the movie and go along for the insane, absurd ride because that's what this movie is. It's pure insanity. Christmas with the Cranks is a 2004 family comedy about a couple, Luther, played by Tim Allen, and Nora, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who plan to skip Christmas and go on a cruise after their daughter heads off to spend a year in Peru. A totally normal thing to do, but everyone in their neighborhood loses their mind over it. Cool, so everyone's crazy. Let's go. Blair flies out the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and Nora is devastated that Christmas isn't going to be the same without her. On the way home, they stop at a store and it's pouring rain, so Luther gets comically drenched before he spots an ad for a cruise, which gives him a great idea and causes him to make this face. Literally, what is he doing? The next day at work, 3 different people say good morning to Luther as he walks to his office before he even sits down. I would turn around and leave. He sits down and adds up receipts, and later that night, when Nora complains again that Christmas won't be the same without Blair, Luther takes the opportunity to reveal that they spent $6,000 on Christmas last year. That's $10,000 in today's money. $10,000 on Christmas? That's crazy. But Luther pitches Nora on taking a 10-day cruise instead, costing only $3,000, skipping Christmas and saving money. Nora asks about their $600 charitable donations, and Luther insists on doing a total boycott, so Nora rejects the cruise idea until he caves later that night. She actually turns it around on him so good when he's like, "Oh, you're really gonna let $600 stop us from going on this cruise?" And she's like, "No, you are." And like, yeah, Mr. Stingy, you are. You spent $6K last year without thinking about it, and now you're hung up on $600? Math time, you would have spent $6,000, and now you're only spending $3,000, which means you're saving half. And one of you wants to continue your charitable donation of $600, which you can take out of that half you're saving. It's only 20%, so you're still saving 80% of that half. So you're still saving 40% overall. That's a good deal. The next day at work, Luther types up a memo to inform his colleagues that he's skipping Christmas this year. He reassures them that he won't be angry and he's not going around shouting humbug, but he's not going to be returning gifts or greetings. I wish I could. I wish I could. But that's like a Facebook post. That's like something someone would post on Facebook to let you know how they feel about Christmas, but typed up on company letterhead and handed out to every single colleague. This movie is freaking nuts. As Nora's heading to meet her friends at lunch, she runs into this stationery store guy and he asks her about her Christmas card order, and she says that they're not going to need any this year, and she leaves. And he follows her and confronts her in the restaurant like, "Oh, we forgot to talk about your Christmas invitations." And while he's standing over her, towering over her at lunch with her friends, she says that they're not ordering invitations, and he is baffled. Like, what do you mean? You're not having a Christmas party? And her friends are shocked. And he tells her friends that, oh, she's not sending out Christmas cards either. And then he sits down at a different table to continue spreading the news. It is unhinged. Like, who cares? I mean, that's the movie, but it's still so crazy, and I have a lot of fun with crazy. So Nora explains to her friends that they're skipping Christmas this year, and her friends are like, "Well, then what are we going to do on Christmas Eve?" Because Nora always hosts the best party. And like, come on, if your friend hosted a great party and then one year they just weren't going to do it, you would be bummed and you would want them to change their mind. So when Nora says that they're leaving on Christmas Day, her friend is even like, "Well, then why don't you just throw the party anyway?" And Nora snaps and yells that they don't want to and that they're taking a break. But then later that same day, some Boy Scouts show up selling Christmas trees, and Nora, we're taking a break from Christmas, Nora, is upset and surprised when Luther tells him that they aren't buying a Christmas tree this year. The tree guy heads back to his truck and tells the unelected ward boss of the street, whatever that means, Vic Frohmeyer, that the Cranks stiffed the Boy Scouts on the Christmas tree, but like, no, he didn't. That would be like if you didn't pay someone for something. He just didn't buy something. Calm down. And are they even Boy Scouts, or is that just a sales tactic? Vic confronts Luther later that night, first trying to guilt him into decorating the house and then basically insisting on it. Luther and Nora argue over putting up a snowman like Vic instructed, and this girl is getting on my nerves. Her only ask when agreeing to skipping Christmas was to continue making their charitable donations, but at every turn she is fighting Luther to cede ground to Christmas. At work the next day, everybody is hostile towards Luther, and Nora calls him while she's hiding at home because Vic, some other guys, and all of their kids are standing outside her home shouting that they're here to see Frosty. Don't these guys have jobs? Full-grown men in 2004, shouldn't they be at work? It's the middle of the day. You're outside screaming to see a snowman? Loser. They leave for now and Nora tries to escape to the mall, but as she's driving down the street, Vic grabs onto her car window like a psycho. He pleads with her for Frosty before getting his finger squished in the window and falling to the ground. Nora makes it to the mall and Luther surprises her with a bikini and a tanning session, and this freaking movie is so weird. Nora is in the tanning bed and some random guy comes up and starts exclaiming at the sight of her. It's the weirdest thing and it startles her, obviously, so she hits her head and now she needs a band-aid, so she runs to the front desk in the middle of the mall right as a priest guy is walking by. People stop what they're doing to stare and gawk at her like some freaking weirdos. Mind your business. Keep it moving. The priest just has to talk to her in that moment and Luther comes running out also in a Speedo, so somebody literally photographs them for an article in the newspaper. How wild is it to care this much? I love the insanity. That night, carolers show up in the neighborhood and ask the old man about the undecorated house, but what does it matter? Maybe they died. Maybe they just died yesterday and their ghost can't cross the threshold of the front door to put up lights. It's their unfinished business and none of yours. But the old man encourages the carolers to go sing outside the Kranks house to spread their Christmas cheer. And they have these huge windows in the front of their house just totally uncovered. And I don't understand that. Why don't people close their curtains when it gets dark outside? Anybody walking by can just see in your house and see what you're doing. And you know what? I do. I'm looking in your windows. So close your curtains. They close the front curtains, but not all of them. And I'm sorry, if there are people outside of my home, I'm closing all of the curtains I can and putting up more. Because shocker, the carolers appear outside this window like a bunch of freaks. Go away. But no, the whole street is standing outside these people's house, singing faster and faster, driving them to hide in their own basement. So the next day, Luther sprays the sidewalk with water to turn it into a slippery ice patch. At first, I was kind of upset about this, and it's probably illegal, like a booby trap kind of thing. But the singing would have driven me crazy too, so I can understand where he's coming from. He also sprays this cat that he accidentally kicked earlier, and I was like, you can't spray the cat, but look at this cat. It'll be fine. Nora volunteers to do a children's reading, and she reads them How the Grinch Stole Christmas. See, it's funny because Luther stole Christmas by planning them a vacation that she totally agreed to go on. Luther shows up having gotten a Botox treatment, and he continually tries to eat and drink even though he literally can't. And it's so fucking stupid. It's not even funny because it's dumb, but I think it's just the family comedy part of this movie. Nora does try to voice her struggle with the harassment they've been receiving from the community, but Luther just reminds her that there's only 24 hours left until their trip. Until Blair calls and drops the bomb that she's coming home for Christmas with her boyfriend, and bro, I cannot handle this girl calling her mom mommy, but even worse is the mom screaming with excitement when she heard that Blair was on the phone. And she screams more when Blair announces that she's engaged, just fully losing her mind. Blair tells her mom that they'll be landing at 8 p.m. tonight just in time for the Christmas Eve party, and Nora unilaterally decides to cancel the cruise and host the party. She hangs up the phone and runs screaming through the house. I'm like, okay, fine, I do that. Just quieter, inside squeal. Luther flops on the bed defeated, and Nora tells him that the cruise was a stupid idea, and she calls him an idiot, and I gasped because I might not like Luther, but that was kind of really mean. Your adult daughter left, and he had the idea to spend your first Christmas alone on a cruise, and you agreed to the cruise and skipping Christmas, but then changed the plans at the last second on your own, and you insult him? She puts Luther in charge of getting a tree and says they might be able to perform a Christmas miracle so that Blair never knows about his stupid, childish plan to skip Christmas. That she agreed to, and it makes perfect sense for a couple whose adult child is out of the house for the first time, but whatever. Luther gets ripped off by the Boy Scouts for their last tree, which he throws away anyway because it's trash, so he asks his neighbor to borrow his tree, a totally normal request. As Luther approaches the neighborhood kids who've been taunting him and chanting outside of his house, they freak out and scatter like a bunch of scaredy cats. He chases and tackles one of them, enlisting his help to relocate the Christmas tree. Not how I would have gone about it, tackling a child, but okay. That was just the first step of his bad idea, because in what world do you ask for a child's help in handling delicate Christmas ornaments that you promised you wouldn't break? Well, in Luther's world, you do. Maybe Nora is right and he is an idiot, because the kid immediately drops and shatters an ornament, obviously. And then it's a whole thing getting the tree out of the house. The cops are called because somebody thinks that Luther is stealing it. Meanwhile, Nora races an old woman in a supermarket for a ham and loses, and then spots another ham at the checkout and buys it off of a couple for way more than it costs, before dropping it in the parking lot anyway, where it rolls into the street and gets splattered by a semi-truck. Dude, this woman overpaid for a ham and then almost died chasing it into the street. There's not a sane person in this movie. Blair calls home to update her parents that she's in Atlanta. How many stops does it take to get home? I don't know, but she says that she hopes her mom is making her caramel pie, and her mom says that she is, which she wasn't, but now she has to because she can't just say that she isn't. So Nora heads out to get wine, and Luther is tasked with putting Frosty up. On the roof? Frosty goes on the roof? Vic rushes all his kids outside when he sees Luther putting Frosty up, but like, who fucking cares? Why do you care? Every other house has one. Luther loses his balance and drops Frosty, who falls off the roof and shatters. Good thing the kids are here to see that. And then he slides off the roof himself, and the number of times this movie had me gasping, like he was sliding off the roof and I knew the rope was going to catch his leg, but it just cut to the next shot and I was like, I don't know. This is the only reaction this movie gave me. The fire department shows up and cuts him down, not bothering to catch him or anything, just drops him on the ground. Thanks, guys. And then the police show up like, oh, I thought you were skipping Christmas. Dude, you're the police. Are you for real? But Luther tells everybody that Blair is bringing her boyfriend home and expects their usual Christmas party. And oh my God, there's 36 minutes left in this movie. This is taking so long, but I'm having fun. I'm having fun. I'm having fun. So of course, this is the part of the movie where the whole neighborhood is going to come together to host a Christmas homecoming for Blair and her boyfriend. One of the neighbors does question why they should do this for Luther because he's a jerk, which is totally fair. But Vic explains that they're doing it for Blair, who is just the darling of the neighborhood. Because of course she is. Of course she is. Babysat all the kids and then went off to the Peace Corps. Is the Peace Corps even a real thing? Or is that just like something they put in like movies and shows to send someone away? Vic sends everyone home to get supplies for the party and orders the police to go pick up Blair from the airport because he has like the chief in his pocket or something. Because of course he does. Of course he does. Blair lands early, so the police have to stall, and they do so by driving really slow, and then they wander aimlessly down an alley while Blair and her boyfriend just wait in the police car till they hear a noise, start chasing the suspect. One of the officers hits his head, so of course I gasped again, and then they catch the suspect and hold him against the window of the police car where Blair and her boyfriend are just terrified in the back seat. And then it ironically cuts to Nora, who is very hopeful about giving the boyfriend a good first time in America. So Blair gets home and Nora screams some more. Just be excited a little quieter, that's all. Just take it down a notch. Outside in the cop car, the police left the guy that they arrested for unclear reasons. And with the window cracked, he calls out to one of the kids and tells him that he's freezing and hasn't eaten in 7 days. And the kid's just like, you haven't eaten in 7 days? So he makes a deal to like bring him inside for 20 minutes so he can get warm and eat. But no funny business. Smart kid. Smart kid. Laying down the rules. The weird guy that Nora didn't know from the liquor store just happens to speak the same language as Blair's boyfriend. It's totally irrelevant. Maybe it's supposed to be funny, or maybe he's supposed to be Santa and he speaks every language. As the party gets going, the boyfriend makes a toast to his new family, and Nora makes a toast to the community, and then everybody stares at Luther expectantly, and he just doubles Nora's toast. He doesn't want to make a toast. I wouldn't want to make a toast, so I wouldn't make a toast. Don't look at me demanding a toast with your glares. I'm not going to do it. That doesn't work on me. I will simply leave. Luther and Nora argue in the kitchen because he's still moping over the cruise, but like, yeah, he planned it for weeks and was excited to go. She's upset that he isn't changed by the neighbors putting together the party, but the party is tonight and they've been harassing you for weeks. So why can't you still go on your vacation tomorrow? Apparently that's putting himself first, which like, I don't know, I don't like the guy, but I think he deserves a vacation. Does she even have a job? She doesn't even think it's possible for him to put others first just because he wants to go on this trip that they had been planning to go on. Luther sees the old couple through their window from his window, and he takes the extra ham that the weird guy brought over to them as like a gift. But the old man is allergic to pork, and the old lady doesn't eat meat, so that was kind of pointless, but it's the thought that counts, I guess. Luther turns back home and watches the party through his front window like a creep. That's me. I'm watching through your windows. Close your curtains. Then he turns around and watches the old couple because he can't decide who he wants to watch. And then he heads back to the old couple and the cat is alive, which is good, and he offers them his cruise package, no strings attached. They try to make excuses, but ultimately come around, and Luther even offers to watch their cat, the cat that he kicked, stepped on, and nearly froze to death, but his heart's grown 2 sizes today, so it's fine. We can trust him with the cat now. At the house, the criminal steals the family's jewelry and escapes out of a window. He walks across the roof and falls off onto the ground, getting up only to be knocked back down by Santa with an umbrella. Meanwhile, Luther is just like, hey, what's in that bag? The cops rearrest him, and Luther realizes that Umbrella Guy was actually Weird Guy. Okay, cool, I'm glad we solved that. Nora meets Luther outside and admits that she was wrong about him being incapable of putting anybody before himself, and Luther concludes that skipping Christmas was a stupid idea. But no, it would have been fine. You still made your donations, she still did her volunteer work, your daughter wasn't going to be home, it would have been okay to go on a cruise. It's fine that you're now okay with not going, that's cool, but it would have been okay to go. The movie ends with Weird Umbrella Santa flying off in a sleigh because Santa is real in this movie. Sure, why not? I feel like some of the reviews I read before watching this movie took it way too seriously, or they were really mad about the neighbors, but the neighbors weren't in the right. They were crazy for that behavior. It was ridiculous, and it was less than half the movie. The movie is 98 minutes long, and Christmas is back on by 43 minutes. That's over half the movie where the neighbors aren't the problem anymore. And sure, Luther and Nora had Christmas in the end, because their daughter came home, not because they gave in to the peer pressure, and because the community came together to help them throw the party rather than just demanding they do all of this work between the two of them. I wouldn't say it was a great movie, but I had fun, and I gasped 5 times.